Welcome to Farm to School Northeast, a podcast where we explore the creative ways that local food is getting into school cafeterias and how food system education is playing out in classrooms and school gardens across the Northeast. To start off Season 2, we gave the microphone to a group of youth leaders at the Food Project. The Food Project is a Boston area nonprofit that builds a sustainable food system by bringing together diverse youth and adults to work on farms in urban and suburban settings, growing food for the community and developing youth leadership skills. Participants gain hands-on experience in farming, food justice, and civic engagement. The organization also works to expand food access by donating produce to hunger relief organizations and building community connections. Their mission is to create a thoughtful and productive community of youth and adults from diverse backgrounds who work together to build a sustainable food system. You can learn more at their website, thefoodproject.org.
Thank you for joining us today. This is the Food Project Dirt Crew. We got about half of our crew right now, but we're gonna have a really great conversation in regards to what we do and what the Food Project means to us. I'll start with the introduction. My name's Lex. I'm the co-supervisor of Dirt Crew right now, and I've been with the Food Project for about 3 years.
My name is David. I'm a part of Dirt Crew. I've been part of the Food Project for almost a year now.
Hi, my name is Seren. I'm also a member of Dirt Crew, and just like David, I've been part of the Food Project for about a year now.
Hello, my name is Wesley. I'm part of Dirt Crew, and just like Seren and David, I've also been here for almost about a year.
My name is Denny. I'm also part of Dirt Crew, and I've been a part of the Food Project for about 2 years, but it's been off and on.
Thank you. All right, we'll get into the first question. Of course, take your time with it. Think about what it means to you personally. And that will be, how can you describe the Food Project's mission as an organization?
Well, the Food Project's mission is to create a thoughtful and productive community of youth and adults from diverse backgrounds across gender, race, and class.
Kind of adding on to Wesley's point, I think the mission is really to unite people using something like food that unites all humans, because all humans need to eat, and kind of showing that despite our differences, we have a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I think the Food Project uses food as like a catalyst for social change and a way to bring youth and adults from diverse backgrounds to work together and create a healthy work environment.
Right, and I think that especially the youth program is very good for youth to get involved with all of those issues and getting more interested in farming and farm work as well.
Appreciate y'all speaking on that, especially food just being like a big, like it's an indicator of like our diversity. Like we have a lot of differences going on, but I love how at the Food Project, like at the end of the day of like a big farming day, we'll have like, you know, maybe some vegetables that we're harvesting that we could take home. And I love talking to y'all about like what different foods can be made with like the ingredients. Like even though the ingredients are the same, we all go back to homes of different cultural backgrounds. And so, are just different preferences of what we like to eat. So we all have like very different, products based on like collective things that we share in terms of food. Okay, so the second question is, can you describe for listeners how the Food Project is organized? How do youth get involved, and what is their role?
The Food Project has been around for around 30 years now, so it's a little bit complicated, but kind of like at the top where the youth don't really see is a lot of people working together to organize with grants and really just trying to organize by getting the Food Project involved with the communities that the farms are in. In terms of youth roles, youth play a lot of roles in community events, where sometimes we lead community events, sometimes our job is to participate and affiliate with the community members. Yeah.
Right, and a way that like youth can get involved is through those people who are active and working on the farms, and through word of mouth and people who have spent their time during the programs and are interested in working at the Food Project.
Adding on to CERN, I think having youth advocate for issues such as like social justice and unsustainability is like a really good way to bring a sense of urgency, because like if youth have to get involved, it makes it like more like concerning, because you know they're not really supposed to be doing that.
We are the future.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all speaking about it in that sense, because like you talked about, sir, and you spoke about like the different levels of it. There's all this like grant work that needs to be done. Obviously, us being like a nonprofit organization, that we might not see like that side of it, but we're involved in every part of that process in terms of like how we are presenting ourselves to the public, because we are a youth and adult co-organized organization, and the work that we do to advocate for things related to our job, such as like SNAP and HIP, like we've been given a lot of responsibility in terms of advocating for HIP in our own communities, talking to people about signing petitions. We put up papers to keep people informed around the community. I'm sure y'all have like come home to like talk to family members or friends about SNAP and HIP. I know I have. So I really appreciate how like ever since I was youth in the food project, I felt like I was really given the keys to like discuss these things as if like I have the power to be an agent of change, because I think in a lot of other jobs, if you're a youth, you feel like you have to take you have to take a step back and let adults do it. But I think the whole point of the food project is showing youth that, without their input, adults can sort of make decisions that aren't benefiting everyone or telling the full story. So y'all do a really good job of like bringing your own personal background and your own experience into it. That's really important. So I want to ask, what does leadership look like for Youth and Food Project? Like, what are some examples of how you've been like given the keys, like I said?
For youth, I say like we're able to like lead like certain community events. Like we get to lead walking tours where we like lead the community around. Serve and Grow, as team captains, we can basically tell people like what to do, like for farm tasks and such.
Another example of leadership is also with this podcast, where the youth were just kind of given the responsibility of like figuring out what they want to say, and like our like bosses like Kayana, and like they didn't like tell us what to say or like really like give us a ton of structure, as well as just like give us the questions. I think that's another example of like leadership, because it's kind of like up to us to like decide for ourselves what should be said.
Exactly, and like workshops and stuff, I feel like we're giving the opportunity to speak up, like whenever we have the chance. Like there's no one telling you to go first. I feel like there's a lot of open conversation, and you kind of have to take the leadership to talk first or share your opinion first. And I feel like that matters in a group conversation.
Yeah, and like as y'all spoke about like activities like Serve and Grow and more like agriculturally intensive like physical work, where we work with the community to like show them how to do certain tasks, to where they can go home with like new knowledge about how to plant. They can come to our seedling sale and like actually transfer that into like building a garden of their own. Like all these skills in terms of like building raised beds, or like learning how to weed carrots, or how to plant eggplant like we're doing today. Like we get to like as young people show adults who are like oftentimes professionals that come in, or community members that come in to learn about things. We're not professional farmers. Like we don't have decades and years of like farming experience and expertise, but like we've just received like clear instruction, and also practice how to facilitate among each other, and how to teach each other new skills, and emphasize that we're all like leading in things that we're not necessarily familiar with, but things that we're confident with, because we are youth leaders. And I really appreciate that, because there's no there's no expectation that we're experts on anything. It's just we are experts on how to facilitate ourselves and how to like motivate ourselves to do new things. So y'all are really great at that. And how can I ask, how has being part of the food project impacted you on a personal level or a professional level?
I think being a part of the food project has definitely made me like more open-minded and social. I think that comes from like working in diverse groups almost every day in the summer and almost every week in the academic year. Also feels like I'm a part of a community that like truly supports me and values me for who I am, and one that I can learn and connect from.
One aspect one aspect of my life that's definitely been impacted by the food project is how to work with other people to be like really like efficient. When it comes to like farm work and you have a huge task and you have 10 people to do it, if you don't like, if I would have tried to do the whole task by myself, that would like have like failed miserably, and like it wouldn't be half as efficient as if all 10 of us were working together as like one unit. So this food project has definitely forced me to really like be open-minded to other people's ideas and really create space for other people to kind of like take on bigger roles and like allow myself to kind of like sit in the back seat and just like learn.
Yeah, I also agree. Like the food project has kind of like impacted me to realize that if you reach out and look for programs like the food project, you'll see that the support that they have and resources that they have to different information is really important for your own personal knowledge and personal self-growth by having these discussions and these important social discussions with everyone.
For me, the food project has like really grown me as a person. Like I used to be pretty shy, not really outgoing, but now like I feel a lot more outspoken, more confident in myself, and that really like has impacted me as I've just become a better version of myself.
Yeah, I don't like to adding on to like what he's saying. I think that's a general feeling with the food project. I know a lot of the members that couldn't make it today also, and like myself, also feel that like the food project has like all allowed us to feel confident, but also we're kind of still ourselves. So like maybe like our personalities haven't changed, but we're still like more confident with like who we are, and we're more able to like express ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. Like even like talking about just confidence and interacting with people that we've never met before. Something that we practice in this job is like just bringing our own stories, our own authentic experiences to the farm and people coming to the farm. Like we're all looking for, as visitors, there's people who come looking for skills or looking for resources in agriculture. But oftentimes we will have discussions that are very meaningful on like high stakes issues like politics. Like today, even we had among ourselves, we had like a current events discussion where we talked about very difficult issues, but we talked about them through our own experience. We related to them to like things we learned about in school, things we talk about with our friends and family. And I think one thing I really appreciate about the food project is that these conversations really just come out very naturally during farm work or during workshops, because that's the culture of the food project. We know that politics isn't something that you can just like put down. Sometimes you could open it, but something that we are constantly walking in. We swim in it, like we breathe it in every day. Politics affects us. It affects the job that we work in. So therefore, we have a right to talk about it honestly and talk about it as something that we have the right to put our input in and be change makers in. So I think like when I was younger, I like didn't always feel like I was able to talk about those things openly. I was very shy, like, you know, when I was coming into Seed Crew, but through facilitation skills, through like workshops, through different things that have trained me to like just speak with more like comfort and with more, you know, thinking and reflecting on my personal values. I think the food project has really affected my ability to come into a space and claim it as something that I can contribute to on a collective level and get other people involved. And next question for y'all is, what issues around the food system are most important to you? What gives you passion and excitement for doing this work?
Well, I guess one of the biggest issues in our current food system is just food inequality. Like, there's food deserts where people aren't getting enough food, and like other places people are getting tons of food, and there's a lot of waste in that. And that doesn't sit right with me, that like we make enough food but not everyone gets enough food. And so here at the Food Project, we are trying to increase food accessibility and get that food distributed to more people who can access these healthy foods who normally wouldn't.
Right.
And so I'm very passionate in working for that.
I agree, and kind of going back to what Leslie's saying, how we get to kind of better ourselves or better the issues, like through having seedling sales or having our farmers markets, and like working at those farmers markets and seeing the progress of people getting involved in buying these vegetables is very important to see how we can better those issues in these systems and like working actively towards it.
I think like just the unsustainability of the food system is like posing a real threat to the environment and the community, whether it's like in the livestock or like the agriculture like sector. I think it creates a lot of challenges for like consumers because of like the fear of like not knowing where their food is coming from, and the environment in like how it's very destructive, of like how commercial agriculture is very destructive. I think like being at the Food Project is like really exciting and like connecting with me because I'm able to like teach the community how to farm sustainably and like be able to make a difference in the environment.
I know we talked about like food deserts and why those are a problem, but if we kind of shift the lens a little bit and look at the lens through like nutrition and why food deserts are really harming people, people aren't getting the nutrition that they need to just do like everyday things, and this is leading to a lot of like health effects like diabetes, and like it's also like when kids don't get enough to eat or don't get the right nutrition, it really affects their learning. So I think like in a very like seems almost like simple, like a very like simple solution where like it's not a very simple solution, but like a very like simple problem, it creates a very difficult problem like down the road. And I think that like a lot of the times, especially like America and like with the way it works, we tend to try to address problems with like we tend to try to address like the big problems instead of like going to the roots and trying to like address them at the roots. And so I think that like the food systems and inequities in the food systems is a great example of how like American healthcare is so built out, but we kind of forget and like don't look at the food systems that are kind of causing these problems.
Yeah, I think like learning about food systems like through a very direct way has been very impactful for me, because like just learning about the phrasing and the actual vocabulary behind these issues has led me to identify problems in my own life, in my own community, in my own upbringing, to where I could identify food insecurity as something that I faced when I was younger, and think about how that was a product of systemic issues affecting me in different intersections of my life and my identity, and also the people that were surrounding me, and thinking about the economics behind it. I think like something that we talk about a lot, which we'll get into for the next question, is learning about like the history of food systems advocacy in the city, and thinking about how things like the Diaz-Sinai Land Trust has fought against big corporations of fast food companies being in communities like Dudley Nubian, because oftentimes in the inner cities we'll have, you know, abundant fast food restaurants for the cheap that are both producing a lot of waste but also causing a lot of health issues in our community, since there will be oftentimes more available fast foods than any sort of nutritious foods. And yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more. But can y'all speak to the intersections of social justice and food systems policies? Maybe more so related to like how that has manifested itself in this community that we work in.
In Dudley, like where we are right now, that's the office right now. There's a really long history of people fighting together and like social justice efforts in order to change the food systems and to be more like equal. And essentially, like a lot of what they were fighting for is like big corporations that were kind of like exploiting the people here and exploiting the land here. And so that's one example of how like social justice and food systems have like come at a crossroads.
Yeah, I think like reflecting on the history of food inequity in this particular neighborhood has shown us a lot about just intersections of different social movements and different economic downturns like throughout history, how they're all related. We see a big pattern of things that we can observe from the like a plain perspective. Just walking down the street, you see a lot of places, yards in this neighborhood that are on raised ground, or you see people growing out of raised bed. And, you can just walk by and maybe say, oh, that's interesting. But, when you really learn about the history of it, you learn that that's the result of people burning down their houses during white flight during the 70s in order to maintain their money during the recession, to get out of renting in black neighborhoods, and then creating issues like lead contamination in the soil, which to speak to actually the learning that we get from the community as people who are resilient practitioners of urban agriculture and sustainable agriculture. We've learned from people like Onario how to farm from raised beds and not get lead contaminants in our food, and further contributing to health issues in the community. We've learned about traditional indigenous practices like Three Sisters, agriculture, corn, bean, and squash, things like that. Could y'all tell me what advice you would give to other students and young people regarding how they make change in their communities?
Well, I guess I would say that just like getting involved, like just getting out there first of all, to like just maybe speaking to adults and like to like organize change, like get an adult to lead in like some clubs and stuff, I'd say.
Yeah, as well as like being able to stay connected within all these social justice issues and reaching out to the food project, like reaching out to other resources. Like I recommend, using your voice, using the knowledge that you have and contributing it to your community and people around you, as well as like school or your work, your own personal work. Being vocal about your opinion and being vocal about your own personal experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just to reiterate what Danny said, biggest thing is use your voice. Understand that like what you have to say is important, and there's definitely people out there that will listen and should be listening. So yeah, really be using your voice and really be active.
Yeah, I also agree. I think using your voice is very powerful. I don't think enough like youth recognize how powerful their voice is. And just that's in general for like everyone. But I also think, like what Denny said, sharing personal stories is really important, and grouping up with other community members can be a very powerful like tool for social change.
Right, and something that the food project did recently was a community panel with people who were involved with the food project, and having resources like that and being able to take those opportunities and ask questions and involve yourself with these people could be really important for your future and for other people's future as well.
Also, I think that like the community of Dudley is very tight knit, and I think that like all of the history that we discussed both in the podcast, but all the history that pertains to the founding of the food project is very very close to us. I think that like that historical textbook, so to speak, is wide open, because those community members that began as just disgruntled residents who organized and created organizations like DSNI and then subsequently the food project are people who, you know, they're everyday people, they're community members just like us, who saw issues that they wanted to fix and then set off to do something about it. And so that really inspires us every day, and it reminds us that the work that we do is not just part of a job, but part of a larger movement of youth, people of color, people coming from marginalized backgrounds economically, who want to see better of their city and want better for their children. So we are the children of those people, and we're the youth of these communities as well as other communities who are coming together to learn more about how we can organize, what it looks like to really put your voice up in a meaningful place, by working with like-minded people, and oftentimes people who have very different perspectives from you. But all of these things are sort of folded and integrated into our efforts so that we can have a tapestry of people who come together to create this change, because that table should be, you know, always moving. It should always take different shapes. There should always be different chairs, different people meeting at this table. And yeah, the food project has really expanded our ideas of where that table can sit. Maybe we don't even need that table. We're talking in a circle right now, no table at all. So everybody's welcome. And then I would like to ask y'all, what advice would you pose to adults who want to help youth become leaders?
I think a really important part of letting youth be leaders is kind of letting them grow and make their own mistakes. So that means like taking a step back if you're an adult, and maybe even try to learn something yourself from the youth. I think that's a really good way to let them be leaders and let them take over bigger roles.
I also like to say, like, get to know your youth better. Like, you want to build a personal connection with them to really understand them, and yeah, like, let them make mistakes. Let us like learn from our mistakes and just be there to support us. And adults like that can really help foster youth.
Right, and being a supporter to the youth to become leaders, as well as being kind of a mentor for them, is really important for their future and their personal selves, as well as staying connected to what they're being involved in. For example, like if you for example, the seedling sale that was happening recently, the food project was a part of. I was seeing a lot of people come in that had children be involved in the food project and Seed Crew when they were youths, and seeing them continue to come visit the food project and purchasing their crops was something inspiring and something that other adults could do to support their children, or, you know, people that you know that are youth, to continue becoming leaders and continue to do what they do.
Yeah, I think, like what many others said, adults should be very supportive of youth, And at the food project, we have like a guide to help youth like lead certain events. It's like I do, you watch, and like I do, you try, and you do, I watch, and like it's just a framework for how adults can help youth in, or it's a framework for how adults can facilitate a process for youth and to ensure everyone understands.
Yeah. I think like my earliest memory at the food project was like when I was in like 3rd grade at the Mason Elementary School in Dudley. And I came to visit like the kitchen and the greenhouse, and I learned about germination. And then they were like, okay, cool. Now you see like the steps, like just wet the napkin, put the seed in it. Now you can practice germination. And I saw how simple it was. And I realized how simple it is to grow a plant. I also learned like how to cook with like locally grown produce, and that was the first time I was ever allowed to like cook by myself in the kitchen, or like not by myself, but like, you know, with guidance, but like giving me the keys again to like do that for myself. And that made me very open to hands-on learning, because it made me feel like I was able to do something for my own, right? Because when you have adults who are excited to allow youth to do things and lead things on their own, after, of course, getting the instructions, that's a really exciting thing for the youth. Like young people want to lead, and they want to lead the charge and like lead these conversations, so long as adults are, you know, allowing them to shine that way. Something that we talk about, or an allegory that I like to talk about in like leading from the back, is being a trellis, which means like providing structure for somebody to grow up with, right? Not necessarily putting shade onto somebody to make sure that that's hindering their growth, or like a structure that's blocking the sun from the plants, but something that the plants can climb up, right? So I really appreciated both, you know, being that seed that grows up the trellis, and then learning from the adults in my life to then become an adult who is allowing youth to grow from hands-on learning and agentive decision-making learning. So, yeah. And then I wanted to ask y'all if there's anything else that you've learned or something that you've practiced through this job that you want to talk about that wasn't necessarily asked in the questions.
Something I just want to talk about. I feel like we've touched upon this, but I really want to give it some space. The food project has been around for 30 years, and just kind of like I should take a second to like admire like how wide the web of like connections like spreads. I'll give a few examples. One example is another member who was part of her crew. He was telling me about how his bus driver saw his like TFP shirt, his like food project shirt, and was like, oh my god, I was in that program all the way back in high school, which is kind of like a crazy coincidence, but like it's like an example of how far and how like wide the food project stretches, and just how successful its mission and like integrating with the community and building up the community has been. I think that's something that I really admire about the food project, and I've come to kind of love about Dudley in general, is really that like community feeling, and that kind of like everyone's kind of trying to help everyone else out.
I completely agree. Like, I've never really spent time in Dorchester or Dudley apart from the food project, and really getting to spend my time here, I've gotten to see how big of a community there is, and how people are involved with each other every day. And even driving by the streets, you'll see people active outside, walking, interacting with each other, and it's really just like a different scene from someone else's everyday life.
Yeah, like even today, like we were just doing like farm work, like scooping compost into wheelbarrows, and we heard drumming like from around the corner, and I got really curious because I really like drumming, and we went over and we saw like a group of community members performing. Like there was a performer, there was free food, So that just attracted a bunch of people, not only farmers in that gardening space to come through, but just anybody who heard the drumming or smelled the food and wanted to come by. And I love those opportunities because, it attracts all sorts of people of different age groups and backgrounds. And there's a lot of opportunities for people to exchange knowledge. And I learned a lot about different people's experiences, and I made a lot of connections, which I think will definitely enrich the food projects experience during the summer when we're able to meet with those people and then do those learning exchanges. So I really just appreciate that open format because the food project is built from community people getting together to solve an issue, and it has continued and really flowered and flourished because people are expanding our definitions of how we can attack those issues and how we can, educate the youth more, educate the community more, and then also set up those youth as as educators of the community, and then see how we can learn from the community as well, because it's just an ongoing conversation, and yeah. Anything else? Any final thoughts for you? Are we feeling good?
Feeling good. I feel like this was a good podcast. I felt like I could open up, talk about the food project in a positive way.
I agree. Thank you to any listeners out there.
Agreed. Yeah. Thank y'all so much. We're gonna give a final thank you, and then we'll be out. Thank you. Yeah.
This podcast is a production of the Northeast Farm to School Collaborative. For more information about this podcast or Farm to School in the Northeast, go to northeastfarmtoschool.org.